Hey everyone, it's Dora from flippinghouses.and pancakes.com. I thought today we would talk a little bit about recipes that we can use to keep us from wasting any food and to help us use up our leftovers. Okay, so hopefully the wind is not too loud. My kids are outside playing. We already finished our schoolwork today, and it was so gorgeous that I thought, let's do this outside. I wanted to show you some of the recipes in my cookbook that you can use to use up leftovers. We had many years that money was really tight, and I was very careful. I would go couponing and I would buy a lot of pasta, but I also was very careful, wind, very careful to not waste any of the food that I had left over. So I found different ways to use my leftovers that made the food feel like a completely new recipe. And I have a whole bunch of recipes in my cookbook that help you do that if you want. Obviously you can use you make all the food fresh, which isn't a problem, but because money, food prices, money, everything has gotten really, really high. The food prices have really skyrocketed lately. And because of that, I figure it's best to use up everything you have. The more you can use the food you've already got and the less you waste, the less money that you're gonna have to be putting out for groceries. So I just marked a bunch of pages in my book, and I want to show you some of the recipes that you can use in my cookbook to help you kind of use up some of the food that you've already got in your house. So the first thing I have here is my peach French toast casserole. And my peach French toast casserole uses a loaf of bread and canned peaches. But if you have leftover challah or any leftover bread in your house, this is a terrific recipe. French toast classically is a good recipe for using up bread that's gone a little hardened, maybe yesterday's bread. If you have a leftover challah, don't throw it away. Turn it into croutons, or maybe turn it into my peach French toast casserole. It will taste like something brand new, and you won't have to throw away any of the remaining pieces of bread. Okay. And then also, one of the best ways to take care of food that's sitting there, maybe you have a lot of vegetables you thought you were going to use all of them, and some of them are still sitting in your fridge. Instead of letting them go to waste, instead of letting them rot and then you throw them out, I would recommend, and that's probably why my mother would make this soup and why I make it, and have any veggie you find soup. And this soup just tells you exactly how to take a whole bunch of different vegetables that you have maybe in your fridge already and throw them into a pot to turn it into a delicious soup. And that's one of the best ways to make sure you're not wasting any of those expensive veggies that you bought, that you have sitting around. You don't want to let it sit there. You don't want to let it go to waste. Obviously, you can do other things. Soup in general is always a good thing. But the other way to prevent those veggies from going bad would be to cut them up and throw them into the freezer before they go bad. But making that soup, delicious idea. Now, what if you have leftover chicken from, maybe you made some grilled chicken, maybe you made some nice chicken breast, and there's some of it left over and nobody wants to eat it. We've had that happen many times where we had like a few pieces of grilled chicken left over, nobody wanted to eat it. One of the ideas I have in my book, I have a recipe called honey mustard chicken salad, and actually the first time I made this recipe, I used some leftover honey mustard chicken that I had made, and I was like, wow, it came out so good in the salad, I would make it again from scratch. And so now my recipe is a from scratch recipe. But even if you have regular grilled chicken, any kind of chicken breast that's sitting there, you could even take chicken off the bone if you wanted to. Try and take off as much of maybe the spice that might be on the outside of it and cut it up and turn it into the honey mustard chicken salad. That's a really good way to keep from throwing away your chicken. And you can do this with turkey also, but you don't want to throw it away. It's such a waste of food. So you could turn it into something completely new, something completely different, and everybody will enjoy it, and you get a whole nother meal out of it. My honey mustard chicken salad recipe is something that will definitely help you do that. Another chicken recipe that I use, and this one was from when I was a kid. We did it. I've got my chicken chow mein recipe. And my chicken chow mein recipe, I never make from scratch. My chicken chow mein recipe is always made with the chicken that I use in my chicken soup. So I make a big pot of chicken soup. It's got plenty of chicken in it. And then instead of throwing away the chicken and saying, this chicken has no flavor, I don't really serve the chicken in the soup. I put it aside and I make a whole meal out of it called my chicken chow mein. And it's delicious. It doesn't taste like chicken soup at all. You won't realize that nobody in your family will know that it was a second dish made from the same one pot of chicken soup. And it's delicious. And that's another good way of stretching the chicken that you have. You use it to make the soup, and then you use it to make another dish afterward that's still full of flavor and doesn't feel dried out at all. Because we also want to stretch whatever we have, especially as grocery prices keep rising. Another recipe that I've got here, I have pastrami, pineapple pastrami fried rice. Now, any fried rice is a really great way to use up leftover rice, because you want to use day-old rice anyhow when you're making a fried rice. The drier rice is a better rice to use. In this case, obviously, you go out and buy pastrami and cut it up. But if you have leftover deli, if you don't have pastrami but you have a different deli meat and you're like, hey, I'm going to use this, go ahead, turn it into my pineapple pastrami fried rice. It will be delicious, and you'll be using leftovers to make a brand new meal that will taste completely fresh and new and kind of like takeout, which is also nice because takeout is expensive. As the food prices go up, but takeout prices go up too. And using this recipe will get you one of those nice takeout meals using your leftovers. So it's like a double whammy. Really great. And let's see. Another recipe that I bookmarked. Now, this recipe, my California quiche recipe, right there, you can see it. My California quiche recipe is, I go out, I buy a bag of vegetable that I'm gonna cut up and I'm gonna use in my quiche. But quiche is a really great way, another great way, in addition to like soup, it's a really great way to use some of those veggies that are sitting there in your fridge and definitely need to get used. So a really great, you've got an onion, you've got maybe some peppers that need to get used, you've got a zucchini that needs to get used, some tomatoes that are getting kind of squishy and soft. A quiche is a perfect place to put it. You can swap out the frozen vegetables that I talk about in my book with whatever vegetables you have in your fridge that are really needing to be used, so you don't have to throw them out. And that quiche will make it taste like something brand new and something fresh. I'm not promising it'll be cheap because egg prices have definitely gone up, but it will be delicious and it will taste like a whole new meal, and it will use up those frozen vegetables that you've got sitting. I mean, not the frozen vegetables, those fresh vegetables that are going to go bad. This way you prevent them from going bad because you use them. I have a recipe for spinach cheese knishes. You can see it right there. And they are delicious, delicious, delicious. I just made a ton of them for my party that's coming up. The spinach cheese knishes are delicious. And you go out and you buy all the ingredients and you turn it into a knish filling. But one of the best parts about a knish is that you could really fill it with pretty much anything. So if you have leftover sauteed vegetables, you could add some cheese to them and stuff them into the knish. Or you could add them to some leftover mashed potatoes, or just add your leftover mashed potatoes into the knish. A lot of people will put kasha and vegetables in a knish. Pretty much anything you put in, beat up an egg. If you've got like a side dish that was sitting there and you're like, I'm not sure what I can do with it, there's a good chance that you can convert it into a knish, and that will help rescue what you've got. So you sauteed some vegetables for dinner once and your kids won't eat it, and you're like, what am I gonna do? Got some leftover broccoli or leftover mashed potatoes or something like that. add a little bit of egg, like look through my recipe and you'll see how I turn the spinach into a filling. Do that, but swap out the spinach for whatever vegetable it is that you have left over from your meal before, and put it into the knish, and I think you'll really enjoy a brand new dish. It will taste completely different than anything that you ate the day before, and your kids will totally not realize that it's a leftover food. Turkey wontons. Let me show you my turkey wontons. Turkey wontons. You can see them right there. There's my turkey wontons. They're so good. They're so good. And I use leftover turkey. We would always have leftover turkey whenever I make one. Like, for example, Thanksgiving, we would sometimes have, family. There would be leftover turkey. There'd be leftover cranberry sauce. And I would take those things. If you look through the recipe, it's very simple to make. I would take them. It's all leftovers. And instead of throwing them out, it becomes a completely new flavored dish that is so good and everybody enjoys. And my kids want me to make turkey so that I have leftover turkey to make the turkey wontons, which sounds like completely backwards, but that's like, will there be enough left over for the wontons? Because we need to make sure that there's leftovers. It's really what they want. They don't really want the turkey. They want the turkey wontons. So that's a great way. And then I wanted to just share one quick kind of one easy dessert that I like to make when I have leftovers. Sometimes you have like the bottom of a trail mix or a little bit of dried fruit that's left over and you don't know, like nobody wants to eat it anymore. They ate everything except for the last few pieces. Cut them up. Chop up the nuts, chop up the leftovers, the dried fruit, things like that. Throw them into my Black Widow mandel bread, either in place of or along with the chocolate chips, depending on what you want. And I did write that in the recipe itself so you could see. Put those in your mandel bread and you won't be wasting any of those last little bits of your nuts, those last little bits of your dried fruit, or even like the candied fruit. I've definitely used like the dried pineapple that's sugary. I don't like eating those. I cut it up. I put it in my mandel bread. So that's another way to use leftover food that's maybe sitting in your pantry that you can use to make a dessert that everybody will enjoy and you don't waste any of the food. I hope you like some of those ideas. If you want more ideas on using leftovers or finding ways to use all the last little bits of food in your fridge or pantry, please let me know down in the comments below. I would love to hear from you, and I would be happy to talk about other ways to use food and leftovers and turn them into new dishes at another moment if that's something you're interested in. Or also let me know if you have a favorite way of using up your leftovers. And if you like this video, please hit like, please subscribe to my channel, click the bell for notifications so you find out every time I upload a new video. And go ahead, check out my website, flippinghousesanpancakes.com, where you can buy my cookbook, Flipping Houses and Pancakes, kosher recipes and kitchen design tips from an amateur professional. You can also buy it off of Amazon.